The next question. Assalamu alaikum, sir. I am Muhammad Mubashir Rahman from Bogura, Bangladesh. I am a student of class 12. One of my friends is going to be an atheist gradually. He shares all his Islamic confusions with me. I try my best to answer him by watching your videos and some other sources. Recently, his question is, the men are attracted by the women, so there is a bad look of men on women. As a result, both of them do a sin. So women have to maintain the hijab. His question is that women can also be attracted by the men. So men should also maintain hijab like a woman. What is the solution to this question? Brother Muhammad Mubashir has asked a question posed by his friend who he claims that he has high chances of becoming an atheist. And the question posed is that men are attracted to women, and by the evil look of the men, the women and men are attracted, and they commit sin. They may be doing zina, fornication, adultery. But even women are attracted to men. So, like how women do hijab, should not men also do hijab? And I agree with him totally. In Islam, hijab is there for both men and women. Most of the aspects of hijab are the same for men and women. In some aspects they differ. And in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first speaks about the hijab for the men and then for the women. Allah says in the Quran in Surah Nur chapter number 24 verse number 30, say to the believing man that he should lower his gaze and guard his modesty. And display not, he should lower his gaze and guard his modesty. So once there was a young boy who was looking at a girl, staring at a girl for a long time. So I told him, brother, what are you doing? It's not allowed in Islam. He told me that a prophet said that the first glance is forgiven, the second is prohibited. I have not completed half my glance yet. What did the prophet mean by saying the first glance is forgiven and the second is prohibited? That does not mean you can stare at a woman for 10 minutes without blinking and say that I have not completed my glance. What the prophet meant was that if you accidentally look at a woman, do not look at her again to feast on her beauty. Or when you're walking and you can come to the woman is there, then the moment you look at a woman, then you should lower your gaze and do not stare at her, do not feast on her beauty. So in Islam, for a man to stare at a woman or to feast on her beauty is prohibited. This is the hijab for the man. The next verse speaks about the hijab for the woman. Allah says in the Quran, in Surah Nur chapter number 24 verse number 31, say to the believing woman that she should lower her gaze and guard her modesty, and display not her beauty except what appears ordinary of, and to draw her veil, a head covering, over her bosom, and display not her beauty except to her husband, her father, her brother, her son, and a list of mahram is given. And regarding the criteria for hijab, the basic criteria of clothing, there are 6 criteria for hijab. For the man, it's from the navel to the knee. For the woman, the complete body should be covered, except the face and the hands up to the wrist. This is the only difference between, that is extent between the man and the woman. Some scholars say that even face should be covered. The remaining 5 criteria for the hijab for clothing is the same between the man and the woman. That the clothes they wear should not be so tight so that it reveals the figure. Number 3, it should not be transparent or translucent so that you can see through. Number 4, it should not be so glamorous so that it attracts the opposite sex. Number 5, it should not resemble that of the opposite sex. And number 6, it should not resemble that of the unbeliever. But this is only the hijab of clothing. It doesn't constitute the complete hijab. The total hijab, besides the hijab of the clothing, includes the hijab of the way a person talks, the way a person walks, the way a person thinks, the way a person looks. All this is included. It is not only the clothing. Clothing is one aspect of hijab. That's the reason, besides clothing, how a person talks, how a person looks, how a person walks, how a person thinks, all this constitutes the hijab. So I agree with the question posed by the friend of the questioner that shouldn't the men do hijab? Of course they should do. And regarding the questioner that if man and woman don't do hijab, they do sin, talking about zina. Zina can only be done if both do a sin. If even one of them is Islamic, zina will never take place. That means both are breaking the hijab. The man as well as the woman. Who initiates is the second question. So the hijab is the same as far for the men and women are concerned, that they should lower their gaze, they should be careful while talking, while thinking, etc. The only difference is in the extent of the clothing, that's it. And the reason is because the men get more attracted by looking at a woman as compared to women getting attracted by looking at the men. And this is scientifically proven. There are many researches done. If you Google and just see, you'll find many researches. And today science tells us that when a man looks at a woman, his pupil dilates more. He's sexually more excited as compared to when a woman looks at a man. The pupil dilates less. So based on this, it is scientific, this is human nature. That's the reason the extent of the clothing for a woman is much more as compared to the extent of the man. All the other aspects is the same. The way they talk, the way they walk, the way they think, lowering the gaze is the same, except the extent. And it's very important that both should maintain the hijab. And zina, a major sin, can only take place if both of them break the hijab. Even if one of them maintains the hijab, the zina can never take place. So I do agree with the friend of the questioner that yes, both should do hijab and both are responsible. It's not only the women and men, both are responsible. That's what the Quran said for zaniyat, for zani, means for the women who do zina and for the men who do zina. Then the punishment is prescribed. So both are responsible and both should do the hijab. Hope that answers the question.